playing like a bajillion platformers, I've slowly started to realize why exactly animals are such a popular choice of protagonist. It's not just because animals make great cartoon characters, as they have since like the dawn of animation, but also because animals can do a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that people can't? Yeah, sure, we got a plumber going nuts and jumping off walls, and that's pretty dope, but a man cannot consume his prey with a mere flick of the tongue. He needs a whole separate character for that. There's a lot of interesting ideas that could stem from having a sort of whip-like object, outside of just consuming enemies and grabbing items and stuff. What if we built a game that took this idea and reintroduced it as a means of getting around a stage? That is how you get Chameleon Twist, an N64 platformer game where you play as a little chameleon guy and you gotta use your tongue to get around the stage. I played this exactly one time at a friend's house when I was really young, and I always wanted to go back to it, but I never did. So yeah, I guess now's my chance, huh? Chameleon Twist, Chameleon Piss. Okay, you're seriously gonna be this adorable before we even get to the title screen. What even is this company? Japan Supply System? It looks like they haven't really made much outside of Chameleon Twist. All I could really find was 2 Game Boy games and, oh, I've seen this before, a canceled Virtual Boy game called Bound High. Weird how that's the one of these 3 that I've actually heard of. It was a weird platformer game where you controlled this ball, and of course with the 3D effect of the Virtual Boy, they had it flying towards the screen over and over. But yeah, that thing never came out. Instead, these guys decided to finish up Chameleon Twist. Alright, I guess we'll start a new game. Right out of the gate, you pick a character. There's Davey, the main guy. We've got Jack, the green one. I guess you're really just picking what color you like best. Oh, maybe not. There's Fred. This guy looks like he does not want to be here. And then we've got Linda, the pink one. Okay, Fred is easily my favorite one. It kind of makes me wish the others also had different expressions as well, instead of just being different colors. The game starts with a quick little cutscene of this chameleon crawling around, looking dumb, you know, what chameleons usually do, and then this rabbit with a top hat and a stopwatch runs through, yammering on about how he's late for a very important date, and then he jumps into a pot of magic rainbow juice. Finding himself curious and with nothing better to do, I mean, he's a chameleon, he's just gonna stand there all day doing nothing, he follows the rabbit into the pot and finds himself in a strange new world. Well, actually, it doesn't really look that much different, but you know what does look different? Us. We do. We have taken shape of a little dude. That was actually my first thought when I picked up this game. Like, that does not look like a chameleon. But I guess they have him start as a chameleon and then he turns into a guy with chameleon abilities. I guess that's what's going on here. Like Scalar, except in reverse. I guess. It looks like this game's plot is pretty much a parody of Alice in Wonderland, but instead of going to Wonderland, yeah, there's nothing to do with Wonderland here, other than like the rabbit and the fact that you go into a different world, so kind of a weird thing to draw influence from and then not do much with. This rabbit character quickly becomes a guide of sorts, giving you tutorials and tips throughout the game, and he even hosts a training room that you can select from the title screen. Kind of interesting seeing one of these again so soon, coming right off of Glover, which also had one. It does a pretty good job of teaching you the game's mechanics in a practical way, which allows you to test each thing out before you use it in the main game. Though I do think a single room that's more open and full of everything you need to interact with is a better way of doing it. It feels a lot less hand-holdy and step-by-step, and more like a sandbox that you're plopped into and you're free to learn everything at your own pace. Here you're given a bunch of individual stages to complete, each one prefaced with an explanation on what to do, and it does get the job done, but I just prefer the way that Glover and Mario 64 did it. Either way, we may as well talk about what we've got here for a moveset. All of it is very tongue-based. The only move you have that doesn't involve licking something is jumping, and yeah, that's a normal, regular old jump. There's no double jump or anything, it's just you hit the A button, you go into the air. Pretty self-explanatory. The poor little guy looks like he has no idea how he got up there. The way he flails and panics when he falls, that's really cute. He looks so happy whenever you pick something up. Like, every time you get an item, he has this expression like he's so stoked about it. That's really great. Anyway, back to the moveset. You'll mostly use your tongue in various ways to get around. The B button will have you stand in place, extending your tongue all the way out to grab objects or enemies or whatever is around you. You can lick up a bunch of guys at once and then spit them all back out, and that can be really satisfying when you get a lot of them at once. This will be your main method of attacking, and you can only lick up the smaller enemies, so the larger guys will have to be taken out by spitting smaller ones at them. You can also latch onto wooden poles and grapple over, kinda like the hook shot in a Zelda game, but what's really cool here is that if you press the A button before you start zipping over, you'll instead do this big rotation. This is probably the most interesting mechanic this game has to offer, the twist. It's Chameleon Twist after all, right? So there's gonna be a lot of moments that has you doing some guesswork on how much distance you'll need to twist yourself around to another platform. And the sound effects that accompany this move go really well with it. It's kind of like this rubbery stretch sound that gets higher and higher pitched the longer you have your tongue extended for. And I feel like that even helps the play control in a way. It's kind of like, it's like this extra level of feedback that subconsciously lets you know how far your tongue has been stretched for. It's kind of weird to explain, but I guess it's sort of like when you're filling a glass of water from the tap. You usually know when to stop filling it with water even when you're not looking at it, because you've heard what it sounds like when it's almost full so many times that when you hear that specific pitch when it's near the top, your brain tells you to turn off the faucet, if that makes any sense. And they do the same thing for that twist move too. You get a similar rubbery stretch sound, so I guess if you over or undershoot the platform, your brain probably processed the pitch the sound was at when you let go, and you wouldn't even realize it, but that would help you get the timing better on every subsequent attempt. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it, but little sound design tricks like this are really interesting to me. Oh, right, there is one more move this little guy's got. By pressing the Z button, you can fling yourself off the ground. The timing took me a little bit getting used to, but you can use this to fling yourself up onto higher ledges. So, unlike a lot of other platformers from the time, Chameleon Twist does not have a hub world. Instead, every time you finish a level, you'll just go back to this level select screen, and wow, there's only 6? Yeah, there's only 6 levels. This is not a particularly long game. You don't even have to finish them all either. Like, whenever you finish one, you unlock 2, and you can decide which of the 2 you want to play, but since you don't have to beat both, you can actually finish this game by only playing 4 of the 6 levels. While the first area is more of a linear and organic environment, most of the stages in this game are a series of rooms that each contain a small challenge. This could be defeating some enemies or getting across an obstacle course. More times than not, it'll involve platforming in some sort of way. Though I really do think the game is at its best when it ditches the room-by-room structure in favor of a more natural feeling and traditional kind of level. The only one outside of the first level is the sand level, and I found this one much more challenging and enjoyable since the pacing is less like a series of spoonfuls and more like one long uninterrupted challenge. There's also these segments where you're stuck in the sand and you have to rely entirely on your tongue to move around, and I thought that was pretty cool. It's probably the most creative level in the game. Some of the room-based levels do get reasonably creative as well though, like this bomb level. It has you licking up these explosive enemies and then you fire them at pillars to make a series of platforms. You might be blowing up tiles on the ground to activate the door. There's actually a pretty okay variety in what you'll be doing, and none of it feels shoehorned in because it all takes advantage of the same core mechanics revolving around the character's tongue. Some sections you can get around in more than one way, like you see these poles and your first thought is just to use the grapple move, but you can actually get it done a little bit faster if you use the twist move. The game keeps track of your best time, so it also encourages you to replay levels as quickly as possible. Though that's not really something that I'm into in platformers, unless it's a Sonic game of course, but yeah, I didn't really get much out of this. A part of me feels like they only did this to try and justify the game's short length. And honestly, sometimes just regular maneuvers have some pretty high risk to them because there's times when the game's camera just does not want to show you where you're trying to go. It's a really strange camera. It's pulled into the corner of the room and moving it doesn't rotate it around your character, but instead it looks left and right. That's so weird. So if you're trying to move the camera to get a better look, you're going to be looking completely away from your character, and it also resets when you start moving again, so keeping it in a position where you can actually see some of these gaps properly is downright impossible. Now you can switch to a more traditional behind the shoulder camera with the L button, and that will remedy some of these camera issues. I did find myself often switching to it briefly to grab an off-screen collectible, but for the majority of the game, you're gonna want to use the default camera because this over-the-shoulder view doesn't really put enough of what you need to see in frame most of the time. I've definitely dealt with worse cameras than this, but it's just so weird and it really should have been better. So at the end of every level there's going to be a boss fight, and they range from actually kinda neat to pitifully easy. This monkey boss, for example, it has you launching projectiles at him until you push him off the stage, and it is so easy you can beat him in like less than 10 seconds. The Centipede boss is really cool though. It dashes around the stage and plops down a bunch of bombs that you gotta lick up and shoot at them before they blow up your footing, which makes it gradually harder and harder to get around the stage. Wait a minute, these things look like the frickin' Zeke H-bomb.
Ziggy Boogie Dude.
There's probably only like 5 people watching who's gonna even know what that is. The armadillo boss is a total joke. You dodge him, you shoot a thing at him, you rinse and repeat, you really can't lose this one. It's crazy easy. My favorite one was easily the ant boss because it's pretty much the only one I actually found kinda challenging. You gotta twist around the pole in the center to trip her over like a big tripwire, and then when she's knocked over, you can shoot a projectile at her, and then she has this attack phase where she spins around, you gotta jump over her over and over. It actually took me a couple of tries on like the other fights. There was just more to this one, and I really wish the other bosses followed suit somehow. Oh, and speaking of difficulty, this entire game is insultingly easy. There is a handful of kind of challenging rooms, and there are some collectibles that you'll need a pretty tricky maneuver to get to, and figuring those out was really cool, but there is absolutely no penalty for dying. You've got your hit points at the top, and you'll lose one every time you take damage or if you fall into a pit, but if you run out of these, you get a game over, but then hitting continue just puts you back in the same room you died in. You don't even lose any collectibles either. There's absolutely no reason not to die or to try to avoid dying. And I feel this kinda ruins the challenge of getting some of these collectibles, because instead of doing it the intended way and figuring out like how these platforms are gonna go and trying to get on the right one and doing this elaborate thing that the game is clearly programmed for you to figure out, I often just felt inclined to jump off the ledge and just get it while falling to my death instead. This is pretty much a baby game. It's just a little bit too easy for me to walk away from it being like, yeah, I had a good time with that, but I think because of that, it would make a really good first platformer or even first game for somebody very young. Bonus points for being really cute and for having really unique mechanics, even if it doesn't do a whole lot with them. As for those collectibles, yeah, I should probably talk a little bit more about those. There's about 25 crowns in each level. Some have a bit less, some have a bit more, but it's usually around that many. Most of these are hidden in plain sight or just off camera, but there are some that will require having to do a specific action, like defeating every enemy in the room and then they'll appear. Most of the more fun challenges in the game come from getting these crowns, so I imagine if you ignored them all, the game probably wouldn't be all that interesting. You're probably wondering what these even do, so if you get 50, you will unlock a bonus pool minigame in the final world, and it's okay, I guess. You just kind of hit the white ball into the other balls until you get them all in, and there's no penalty for pocketing the white ball, and getting the right angle is really jank because of how limiting the camera is. It's always overshooting the angle you want, so you're just going to be aimlessly smacking away at it until you win. And you know what you get for beating this? You get a crown. 1 crown, a single crown. It's not really worth it. That's not the only thing you get for getting all the crowns, though. I say getting all the crowns, you don't even need to get them all. You just gotta get like 20 in every level, and that's really weird. It's like, yeah, you don't need to get them all. Just get most of them, and we'll just give it to you. Yeah, you get this bonus level. It's not that exciting. It's just a boss rush. You land in a room, and you can pick and choose to refight any of the bosses. Oh, when you beat them all, nothing happens. You don't even like complete the stage or anything. It just puts you back in the hub. So I guess it's not really a boss rush as much as it is a boss selection. But even then, if you really wanted to refight a boss, you could just replay that boss's level. They don't disappear. They're still there when you replay the level. And like, there's probably only 2 bosses worth refighting, so it's not exactly worth the effort of unlocking. Oh, this game has a multiplayer mode, apparently. I guess I may as well give that a quick look before ending the video. Alright, looks like there's 2 game modes, Survival and Time Trial. Survival has you trying to knock your opponents out of the ring, and the last one standing gets a point. It's pretty straightforward. Time Trial's a little bit more interesting. As you spend time outside the ring, your character's timer will start counting up. Whoever has the least amount of time clocked in outside the ring is the winner, so the idea is to not only knock your opponents out of the ring, but also to keep them outside the ring for as long as possible. It's actually not a half-bad multiplayer. It's really simple, but the ideas here are pretty neat, so if I was a kid, I could see myself playing this a little bit. So yeah, that's Chameleon Twist. Not much to it, really not much here either. Like, the core mechanics, while I find them really unique and interesting and very, very cool, I feel like it just doesn't do enough with it. I feel like it's really held back by its primitive level design, the total lack of challenge, and the really short length too, I think also kind of kills it. Before it can do anything really cool, it's already over. I feel like if they tried to make a game twice as long, they would have more time to develop these mechanics and do something a little more ambitious with it, maybe. That said, though, I would struggle to call this a bad game. It's definitely not a bad game. There is something worthwhile here. It's just that, I don't know, I imagine a lot of people are just going to find this very underwhelming. I really wish they would take these mechanics and flesh them out into something much bigger and better, you know? And, well, they did make a sequel after all. Maybe this takes things to the next level, who knows? So, I guess we'll find out next time when we take a look at Chameleon Twist 2. See you guys then. Hello, welcome to the end. Thank you for watching my video about Little Chameleon, guys. If you want to support this show, we have a podcast on Patreon that's $1. If you want to click on another video, I put one here. That's about it. Yeah, if you, I don't know, thank you for watching. Have a good night.